In the dark reaches of a distant galaxy, the Zorvan's planet burned under a merciless siege. Their world, once vibrant and full of life, was now scarred by explosions and relentless attacks from an enemy far more advanced and merciless than anything the Zorvans had faced before. Desperation filled their leaders as they activated the ancient distress beacon, a signal meant to reach every corner of the galaxy in hopes of finding aid. The message was clear and urgent. Help us. We face annihilation. This SOS drifted silently through the vast emptiness of space, bouncing from one star system to another, until it finally caught the attention of various civilizations. Most dismissed it as just another distant cry lost in the sea of stars. But, somewhere on the edges of known space aboard a rugged human fleet, the signal sparked immediate interest. The humans, often referred to by others as Deathworlders, were known across the galaxy for their toughness and fierce survival instincts. Their home planet was harsh and unforgiving, filled with deadly predators, extreme weather, and little room for weakness. The story of how humans had survived and thrived against such odds had become a legend, and many spacefaring races regarded them with a mixture of awe and fear. Galactic authorities often warned that humans were unpredictable, their ways wild and sometimes violent, far from the controlled, diplomatic approaches favored by other species. Despite these warnings, when the Zorvan's SOS signal flashed across, human sensors, the decision to respond came swiftly and without hesitation. The fleet commander, a seasoned veteran hardened by countless skirmishes on their own brutal homeworld, saw the signal not as a call for mercy, but a challenge to prove human strength and resolve once again. Orders were given. Engines roared to life, and the fleet of rugged human ships began its journey through the cold void, cutting through light years of silence toward the Zorvan system. Across the galaxy, whispers spread about the impending arrival of the Deathworlders, stirring unease among the Zorvan's enemies and curiosity among their allies. The humans' reputation was a double-edged sword. While feared for their fierce combat skills, they were also respected as survivors who could turn impossible situations around. Yet no one truly knew what to expect when these battle-hardened humans arrived at the edge of the Zorvan system. The Zorvans themselves, desperate and wary, hoped for help, but feared what kind it might be. They had sent diplomatic messages alongside their SOS, but the arrival of an armed fleet was not part of their plan. As the human ships crossed the final threshold into Zorvan space, tension crackled through the void like electricity. Sensors aboard the Zorvan defense grid flickered with unfamiliar signatures, and commanders scrambled to identify the newcomers. The human ships were unlike any others in the region, rugged, functional, and bristling with weaponry designed, not for show but for survival. From the moment the fleet appeared on the horizon, it was clear this was not a typical rescue mission. The human commander ordered his fleet to hold formation, their eyes scanning for threats, their minds focused on the mission ahead. They had no illusions about diplomacy or cautious negotiations. Their way was simple: secure the area, eliminate threats, and protect those who needed it. But what awaited them was more complex than they imagined. The Zorvan's enemies had not expected human interference. The advanced fleet that had been closing in on the Zorvans paused, detecting the sudden appearance of this new force. A ripple of confusion spread among their ranks. They knew of the humans' deadly reputation but had never faced them in battle. What kind of weapon did this strange species bring that could halt their conquest so suddenly? Meanwhile, aboard the human command ship, a steady voice cut through the tension. Prepare for immediate engagement protocols. The Zorvan's enemies will test us, but we are Deathworlders. We do not back down. The fleet surged forward, not with the diplomacy of old alliances, but with the resolve forged on a planet where only the strongest survived. The silent watchers of space, many had believed the humans to be reckless, but now, as they approached a battlefield unlike any other, it became clear that this fleet was a force shaped by hardship and unyielding will. The Zorvans watched from their command center as the human ships moved into position, their presence alone shifting the balance of power. For the first time since the siege began, hope flickered in their eyes, but it was tinged with uncertainty. Would these Deathworlders save them, Or would their arrival bring a storm that none were prepared for? The answer lay just beyond the stars, where survival was a test of strength, strategy, and the unbreakable human spirit. When the human fleet entered the Zorvan system, the scene was tense and heavy with expectation. The Zorvans had been waiting for help, but they had imagined something very different. Diplomatic ships arriving quietly, leaders exchanging words of reassurance and plans for aid. Instead, what met their eyes was a fleet unlike any they had seen before. Heavily armed ships moving with sharp precision, engines humming with raw power, and tactics that seemed designed for battle rather than peace. The humans wasted no time, with ceremonies or lengthy introductions. Their first move was to establish a perimeter, scanning and securing the key points around the Zorvan homeworld. To the Zorvans, this approach was shocking. Their culture valued dialogue and careful planning, but the humans acted with the speed and decisiveness of those used to constant danger. It became clear quickly that the humans did not just want to talk, they came ready to fight. Inside the human command ship, the atmosphere was calm but focused. The fleet commander's eyes scanned tactical displays, reading every blip and signal. For the humans, this was not just a rescue mission. It was survival training put to the test on an alien stage. Their technology, while not always the most advanced in pure numbers, was designed for adaptability in harsh conditions. Their ships were equipped with systems hardened against environmental extremes and quick repairs, tools born from their homeworld's brutal challenges. These advantages gave them a surprising edge in the battle space, shifting the balance in favor of the Zorvans almost immediately. The human tactics puzzled many Zorvan officers. Humans relied on rapid maneuvers, striking where the enemy least expected, then falling back and regrouping with a speed that was difficult to predict. The Zorvans had never faced a species that fought like this, mixing clever strategy with sheer daring. Their own fleet commanders were forced to reconsider their ideas about warfare and alliances. Even more significant was the reaction of the Zorvans' enemies. When the invading forces detected the sudden appearance of the human fleet, confusion rippled through their command. They had planned their conquest carefully, confident in their superior numbers and technology, but the arrival of humans threw their calculations into chaos. Their scouts reported the humans' aggressive formations and unyielding advance. This was not a help mission as usual. This was a new kind of threat, one that could not be ignored. Orders to halt the attack came from enemy commanders unsure whether to retreat or prepare for a prolonged battle with the Deathworlders. Meanwhile, the Zorvans observed the human fleet's movements with mixed feelings. Relief at the presence of powerful allies was shadowed by anxiety over what the humans might do next. The humans did not ask for permission or make long speeches, they simply acted with ruthless efficiency. One Zorvan diplomat whispered to a colleague, "They are not like us. They do not understand our ways." Despite these concerns, the humans showed no signs of slowing down. They set up forward operating bases in orbit, deploying repair drones and combat units that began fortifying positions and preparing for the enemy's next move. Their approach was practical and fast, leaving no time for traditional ceremonies or negotiations. The human commander explained to his crew, "We're here to save lives, not to hold meetings." His words reflected a mindset forged in the harsh crucible of their homeworld, where hesitation often meant death. As the days passed, the humans and Zorvans slowly learned to work together. The Zorvans shared valuable intelligence about the enemy's tactics and weaknesses, while the humans introduced new strategies focused on mobility and surprise. The humans' presence boosted the morale of the Zorvan defenders, who began to see hope where there had only been fear. Still, tension remained high. The Zorvans worried that the humans' aggressive style might provoke the enemy into greater violence, while the humans grew frustrated with the Zorvans' cautious approach. Despite their differences, both sides understood that their survival depended on cooperation. Unexpectedly, the humans discovered hidden threats within the Zorvan system, environmental hazards and ancient defense mechanisms that had been forgotten, but could still be dangerous. Instead of ignoring these risks, the human engineers quickly devised solutions, adapting their technology to the local conditions and reinforcing their fleet's defenses. This blend of human ingenuity and Zorvan knowledge created a new hope that the siege could be broken. Meanwhile, the enemy fleet watched from the shadows, recalculating their plans. The sudden arrival of these Deathworlders had changed everything. No longer could they expect an easy victory. The humans fought not just with weapons, but with a spirit born of survival against impossible odds. Their tactics were a puzzle the enemy could not easily solve, their resolve unshakable. The story of the humans' arrival spread quickly across the war-torn system, creating whispers of fear and respect alike. Many began to wonder, were these humans the salvation the Zorvans had prayed for, or was their fierce presence a prelude to a larger storm yet to come? Suspense hung in the air like a thick fog, as the galaxy waited to see how the clash between ruthless invaders and determined Deathworlders would unfold. Every move mattered now, and the fate of the Zorvan race balanced on a knife's edge. The human fleet settled into its defensive positions around the Zorvan homeworld. A silent tension grew between the two allied species. The Zorvans, proud and cautious, watched the humans closely, struggling to understand the strange, sometimes brutal methods the Deathworlders employed. The humans wasted no time in fortifying their hold on the system, erecting mobile shield arrays, and deploying rapid response fighter squadrons with a speed that stunned the more deliberate Zorvan commanders. Every human move was efficient, sometimes harsh, and often shocking to the Zorvans' delicate sense of protocol and diplomacy. Yet, beneath their unease, a deep gratitude was growing among the Zorvans. They had felt the crushing weight of defeat, pressing in on them for months, and the humans' presence brought a renewed hope that survival was still within reach. However, this fragile alliance was soon put to the ultimate test when the enemy fleet, previously stalled by the unexpected human arrival, launched a sudden full-scale assault with brutal precision. Their warships swarmed the system, unleashing a storm of fire and destruction that threatened to overwhelm even the hardy humans. But the Deathworlders were not ordinary defenders. Drawing from centuries of survival on a planet where the environment was as deadly as any enemy, they adapted rapidly. Instead of matching the enemy's tactics directly, humans employed unorthodox strategies, feints, sudden strikes, and unpredictable maneuvers that forced the attackers into confusion and hesitation. Their fighter pilots moved with a ferocity and coordination that seemed almost instinctual, weaving through enemy fire and striking critical targets before slipping away. The Zorvans watched in disbelief as human engineers repaired damaged ships in record time, using innovative techniques that combined technology with hands-on skill honed through years of hard labor under extreme conditions. The humans fought, not as isolated units but as a tightly bonded team, communicating with precise brevity and an almost silent understanding. This level of resolve and teamwork was new to the Zorvans, who had long relied on hierarchical command structures and strict protocols. Slowly, admiration replaced skepticism in the eyes of the Zorvans. They began to see the humans not as unpredictable savages, but as warriors shaped by a harsh world who refused to give up. This growing respect, however, did not come without its challenges. The Zorvans' more cautious leaders worried that the humans' aggressive tactics might provoke unnecessary risks, potentially endangering their fragile planet further. They urged restraint, hoping for a peaceful resolution once the immediate threat was controlled. But the humans remained focused on one thing: survival. They understood the stakes better than anyone, and their every action reflected a no-nonsense approach that left little room for doubt. As the battle raged, the humans showed an uncanny ability to read the enemy's moves, anticipating attacks before they happened, and countering them with precision. Their small strike teams infiltrated enemy formations, disabling ships and gathering intelligence, turning the tide piece by piece. The enemy commanders found themselves fighting an opponent unlike any they had met before, relentless, adaptable, and united by an unbreakable will. Meanwhile, the Zorvans struggled to keep pace with this new style of warfare. Their own forces had been trained for traditional engagements and defensive postures, but the humans' speed and flexibility forced them to rethink their own tactics. Some younger Zorvan officers, inspired by the humans' daring, began proposing bold counterattacks, challenging long-held doctrines. Yet, Not all Zorvans were ready to embrace these changes. Tensions simmered beneath the surface, threatening to unravel the fragile cooperation between the two races. Despite these difficulties, moments of true unity shone through. In the heat of battle, human and Zorvan pilots flew side by side, protecting one another and sharing quick signals of support. On the ground, joint teams worked together to repair damaged infrastructure, blending Zorvan technology with human practical know-how. These collaborations, born in necessity, hinted at a future where two very different cultures might learn from each other. However, the ongoing combat also exposed the limits of this alliance. The humans' direct, often brutal methods sometimes clashed with the Zorvans' desire for diplomacy and caution. Misunderstandings flared and small disputes threatened to escalate, reminding all involved that trust was hard-earned and easily lost. Still, as the battle continued, the undeniable truth emerged. Without the humans, the Zorvans would almost certainly have fallen. The Deathworlders' intervention had not only halted the enemy advance but had pushed back, reclaiming key territories and forcing the attackers into retreat. This success came at a cost, and both races bore scars, physical and emotional, but it cemented a bond forged in fire. The enemy, now wary of the humans' presence and methods, hesitated to launch further immediate attacks, buying precious time for the Zorvans to rebuild and rethink their defenses. In the quiet moments between battles, the Zorvans pondered the strange newcomers who had arrived not with polite words, but with a promise of survival through strength and unity. The humans' will to live, honed in the crucible of their own, Deathworld had turned the tide, revealing a fierce spirit that even the galaxy had underestimated. Suspense lingered in the air. Would this clash of cultures lead to lasting peace and alliance, or would the differences between these two species eventually drive them apart? Only time would tell as the stars watched silently over a battlefield that was now as much about survival as it was about understanding. As the battle raged on and hope seemed to slip through the fingers of the Zorvans, the humans refused to let defeat become their fate. The fleet commander called for a bold new plan, one that relied on speed, surprise, and pushing every system, and pilot beyond their usual limits. What seemed like a hopeless defense transformed into a series of daring strikes that caught the enemy completely off guard. Human pilots, fearless and sharp-eyed, darted through the chaos like shadows, slipping past heavy fire to strike at key enemy vessels. Their ships were pushed to the edge of their capabilities, engines roaring, weapons blazing, every maneuver carefully timed and executed with deadly precision. Engineers worked tirelessly, repairing damage as fast as it came, often under fire, themselves demonstrating a blend of skill and determination that seemed almost unbreakable. The enemy, confident in their overwhelming numbers and technology, was unprepared for the relentless pressure that the humans brought to bear. Their battle formations fractured under surprise attacks, supply lines were disrupted, and communication began to break down. The Zorvans watched in awe as the humans' unconventional tactics and fierce will turned the tide of battle, slowly but surely pushing the enemy back from the borders of their world. Encouraged by the humans' success, the Zorvans began to contribute more directly to the fight. Their own technology, though less rugged than that of the humans, had unique strengths that, when combined with human tactics, created powerful new strategies. The Zorvan engineers and strategists studied the human methods carefully, adapting their ships and weapons to match the speed and flexibility of their allies. Joint missions became more frequent, with human pilots and Zorvan crews coordinating strikes that exploited the enemy's weaknesses. The trust between the two races deepened, no longer just an uneasy alliance, but a genuine partnership forged in the fires of combat. This cooperation proved critical as the enemy fleet, shaken and demoralized, began to falter. Their commanders struggled to maintain control as waves of coordinated attacks forced them into retreat. The once confident invaders found themselves facing a new reality. The Deathworlders were not just fierce fighters but strategic masterminds who could adapt and innovate under pressure. The Zorvans, who had once doubted the humans' aggressive ways, now saw the true strength of their resolve and skill. In the midst of the conflict, small moments of camaraderie blossomed, pilots exchanging signals of respect, engineers sharing techniques and leaders planning together late into the starry nights. The battles were far from over, but the momentum had clearly shifted. Hope grew brighter across the Zorvan homeworld, inspiring civilians and soldiers alike to hold on a little longer, fight a little harder. The humans, for their part, remained focused and unyielding. Their mission was clear: protect the Zorvans and push the enemy from their system. They fought not for glory, but for survival and the promise of a future where such destruction could be stopped. As the enemy fleet retreated beyond the reach of the Zorvans' defenses, it was clear that the Deathworlders' arrival had not just saved a planet, but had changed the course of a war. The alliance, once uncertain and fragile, had become a beacon of strength and resilience, proving that even the harshest worlds could come together to face the darkest threats. Yet beneath the victory, a new question lingered. How would these, two very different races, continue to work together when the fighting ended? The answer remained hidden among the stars, waiting to be written in the days to come. With the enemy fleet finally pushed back, and the immediate danger to the Zorvan homeworld lifted, a deep silence settled over the battered system. A silence filled with relief, exhaustion, and the cautious hope of new beginnings. The Zorvans, who had once seen the humans as unpredictable outsiders, now regarded them with profound respect and gratitude. They understood that without the unyielding resilience and raw ingenuity of the Deathworlders, their civilization might have fallen to ruin. In a historic moment, the Zorvan leaders extended a formal offer of alliance to the humans, a gesture acknowledging not only their debt, but also the recognition that the galaxy was changing, and strength would come from unity between different worlds and ways of life. The humans, for their part, accepted the alliance carefully. Their reputation as fierce and sometimes ruthless warriors had preceded them, and they knew that the galactic politics following such a victory would be complex and full of unexpected challenges. Yet they also recognized the importance of this new partnership, a bond born from the harsh realities of survival and battle, but with the potential to build a stronger future for both races. The human fleet prepared to leave the Zorvan system, their ships once again humming to life, engines steady and ready to cross the vastness of space back to their own home. As the humans packed up their equipment and said quiet farewells, stories of their bravery and skill spread throughout the Zorvan worlds, weaving the legend of the Deathworlders as protectors of the weak and masters of survival. The Zorvans, who had faced extinction, now looked toward rebuilding with a new sense of determination and the knowledge that they were no longer alone. Meanwhile, the humans, though ready to return to the familiar struggles of their own harsh planet, carried with them a deeper understanding of the galaxy beyond. Theirs was a story not just of survival against impossible odds, but of unexpected alliances and the strength found in diversity. Suspense lingered as the fleet disappeared into the stars. Questions about the future of the alliance, the reactions of other galactic powers, and the many challenges still ahead floated in the minds of both humans and Zorvans. But one thing was certain: the Deathworlders had left an indelible mark on this corner of the galaxy, and their legend would grow, ready to face whatever trials the universe would send next.